All right, so welcome back to the Winter Fancy Food Show. And as you have seen here from the set today, we've had everything from products to brands and concepts. And now, of course, we decided to go out for some delivery. The only problem was Bowie Cheung from Uber Eats did not bring me anything.
You caught me empty-handed.
Okay, let's go a little bit into your background, kind of how you got started with Uber.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun to be here. I'm glad to be on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I started at Uber a little under 4 years ago.
Okay.
At the time, Uber Eats was nothing more than an experiment.
Yep.
I remember recruiting for the job, and they called it a special project because we weren't even sure what it was going to be yet. We spent about 6 months experimenting with a lunchtime delivery product, and we were just talking about that. In New York City, for example, we would partner with 1 to 2 restaurants a day, ask them to pre-prepare 1 to 2 of their favorite items, and we would put them out on the road so that if you were ordering lunch to the office, you could get your favorite items delivered in 10 minutes or less, which was pretty unbelievable at the time.
We went to New York specifically to film that segment, and we were at a WeWork studio right there in Bryant Park, and I was getting delivery from, we tested it with every restaurant we could, and we were getting deliveries from all these bike messengers, and they were coming out. Of course, we're there with cameras, so they're a little freaked out. But the point is that it was the first real step in delivery that has now, of course, transformed the restaurant and the consumer, habits of today's dining public. When you look at that kind of implementation and success that Uber has had, what would you say was the defining moment for you guys when the bell curve just started for you?
Sure.
Anything specific?
Sure. Well, there were so many defining moments, but one of the really interesting things that we observed at the time was, you got to remember, 2015, not that long ago, but that was the year that food delivery started to go outside of the traditional method of call your local pizza shop or call your local Chinese restaurant. Food delivery through a mobile app started to really become a thing. And when you presented the opportunity for local restaurateurs to put their signature dishes on a mobile platform, and you introduced that level of convenience for consumers, very quickly you saw that we were onto something really special, and this was the direction that the industry was going to go.
Yeah.
And so when we learned that, we started to observe very quickly, well, lunchtime is not all that consumers are looking for. They're looking for more selection in their lives, more convenience in their lives. So it wasn't long before we built a separate app for Uber. So that's the Uber Eats app that most folks would recognize today. And said, well, let's make it available not just during lunchtime and not just on weekdays, but 12 hours a day. And let's not partner with just a couple of restaurants a day. Let's put 100 restaurants on the platform every day, the best in the city. And you know what happened? 6 months later, we recognized that consumers really are looking for selection and really are looking for even more than we first thought. And so we went from 12 hours a day to 24/7, and today we are covering 70% of the US population, 70% of the Canadian population, and in most of those markets offering 24/7 coverage. And we're partnering with far more than 100 of the most popular restaurants in every major city, because who's to say what's the most popular restaurant? We have such diverse tastes in food.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we partner with over 100,000 restaurants in the US and in Canada.
That's amazing. So you guys, of course, Bowie, your role as Director of Operations, you are covering all aspects of the Uber Eats platform itself. So everything from UX on the consumer usage side to the restaurant onboarding, and then the actual delivery system itself?
That's right. So we operate from the principle that you build a really great product experience by really understanding the customer very deeply and working backwards from there.
All right.
And so we spend a lot of time thinking about the consumer experience, thinking about the restaurant experience, and thinking about the delivery partner experience. Working backwards in terms of what we need to be able to offer as a platform to serve all these customers well. And what inevitably happens is that food delivery is a really complex process. There's a lot of steps involved. In a lot of ways, every single transaction can go wrong. And so you need to be thinking about all audiences and how it comes together in order to deliver a winning platform.
Yeah, and I find that what's so intriguing to me is obviously the growth of Uber Eats in itself has been a massive success story. I would think even more so than maybe even your ride sharing because of the transaction frequency. Because I'll use Uber Eats maybe 3 or 4 to 1 over my ride sharing experience. So I think that is a huge factor just because we eat more than do anything else. I kind of am curious, the relationship that Uber has with the restaurant operators themselves. How does that, because you see, restaurants that are utilizing a variety of delivery sources, but what is it that draws them so close to Uber? Because I see more and more operators using Uber for sure as one of their selected partners. What do you feel is that connection there that makes it so positive?
Well, I'll tell you what I hear from our restaurant partners, and it's a variety of things. One, restaurants are always looking for new and creative ways to grow their business.
Yep.
And one of the things that we invest a lot of time and energy into at Uber is, of course, building our own brand, not just as a rideshare company and a technology company, but a real player in the food service industry.
Yep.
We spend a lot of time thinking about how we can build tools and platforms so that restaurants can market their own business on the platform.
Okay.
And so we were one of the first food delivery companies that made beautiful photography part of the everyday experience for folks that are ordering food. And so that's just one example of a channel that we've created for restaurateurs to represent their brands through the app. But we're coming up with more and more ways. So, for example, we've been building and piloting a co-marketing platform where restaurants can advertise their dishes or their brand on in the app.
Okay. So it's the one you just recently talked about or released. I think it was, but you released it overseas, right?
So there's a number of things we've been doing both in the United States and overseas. This is one of them. But this is something that we've been working on in the United States at least for several months now.
So they can promote, in essence. Is that right? Okay. So whether it's, here's a special offering I have as a restaurant, that's going to potentially be promoted on the Uber app itself.
Yeah.
Is how it works. Okay. All right.
And you can see the advertising right in the app. And there's other experiments that we've been working on with our restaurant partners as well. And so, for example, a campaign that was actually a really popular campaign overseas, and we're looking to bring it to the United States and Canada, was it was a lot of fun. We call it BOGO, buy one, get one.
Okay.
You buy one hamburger, get a second hamburger for free, and buy a slice of pizza, get another slice of pizza for free. And that can be a lot of fun, for our marketing teams and for the marketing teams of our restaurant partners. And so to go to market with offers like that and find a way to join our combined brands and make a little bit of a splash is, I think, a lot of fun for everybody, and it also happens to be good for business.
Yeah, very good. All right, so moving into kind of what makes the restaurant stand out on Uber Eats platform, one thing that I've noticed, at least when I use the app, is I'm always looking for a restaurant that has some kind of unique offering. So it's something that really differentiates them, because as you know now, Uber is, you've got so many options in selection. So for an operator, they really have to kind of explore things like what you might see here at the Fancy Food Show, where I'm looking at a special kind of hamburger that has a certain kind of truffle oil on it, and they've featured that as and that's my draw. That's what got me.
Yeah.
So are you seeing movement in the space where we're differentiating, restaurants using it as a strategy, in essence, to differentiate themselves by offering unique products like what you might see here at the Fancy Food Show?
Well, I think you've called out exactly the sorts of characteristics that restaurants want to be thinking about to be successful on the platform. I'll give a few examples. Every restaurant has their signature dishes.
Yep.
And in the app, we've got room in the menu for restaurants to highlight their signature dishes. And if those signature dishes are accompanied by beautiful photos and compelling descriptions, then that makes it even easier for eaters to discover what it is that they're really looking for. But you have to think about this in terms of the consumer base more broadly. And the way we like to think about it is that if you were to ask an economist, and we work with some economists, they would describe the food industry as one where consumers have a taste for variety.
Right.
And what that means is, there's no perfect dish. There's a perfect dish for you and a perfect dish for me, and for the thousands of people that are here today, they all have a dish that's perfect for them, but there's going to be not that much overlap between the two.
Interesting. Okay.
And so part of what we're building into our technology is this notion of personalization and a food graph that helps us understand the preferences of every single individual. And what that means is if you open up your app and I open up my app and we're both here in the Bay, we're going to see different things based on our past ordering behavior and what we like and what we don't like. And so by building off that platform, we think we can build new and creative tools for restaurateurs to surface their specialty items to the consumers that are going to appreciate it the most.
Can you talk a little bit about, there's two things. One is, I want to go down the topic of Uber doing some potential grocery delivery, and then also the topic of some of your initiatives in New York where you had the restaurant element where they were, I'll just say a burrito restaurant, but they also, based on your logistics data, saw that there was Asian interest. So you worked with that restaurant to create kind of a dual menu out of one location. How did that come about? Was it just the data that was telling you people want this particular kind of cuisine?
It's exactly that. So what you're describing is a concept that we like to call the virtual restaurant. And I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for consumers, but also a phenomenal opportunity for restaurants. The example that you're referring to is we noticed in a particular neighborhood of Brooklyn, users were searching for certain cuisine types, but we didn't have as many restaurants in that neighborhood serving that cuisine. The supply didn't match the demand. And by the way, most restaurateurs don't have access to that information. And so we approached some restaurants and said, hey, have you considered spinning up a different type of menu that's delivery only, putting it on Uber Eats, and let's promote that together. And in many of these cases, they've turned out to be terrific successes. In fact, I can point out at least a couple of situations where, based on the success of the virtual concept, the restaurant has actually rebranded their entire brick and mortar restaurant and said, this is a better direction for us. And so that's a really exciting development.
They did a pivot.
Based on the information and the data they're getting from experimentation on the Uber Eats platform.
My prediction is you guys are going to pivot.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
By 5 years, the food business will be your bigger part of your business. I totally believe that. With delivery on the rise, the frequency numbers there, the data you have, I think that's your future.
I mean, who knows? Look, here's what I can tell you. The facts are the following. Most of us that are here today, we eat 21 meals a day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 7 days a week. 21 meals a week. 21 meals a week. And the average consumer today, not just on Uber Eats, but across the United States, all the different platforms, will order food 1 to 2 times a week. And so that's 1 to 2 orders a week on delivery when the total addressable
you get a lot of headroom there for growth.
Exactly. And so we think a lot about how we can build the right technology and logistics to facilitate everyday eating through, and don't necessarily need to be food delivery. There's other channels as well that people will always use to get food. But we think food delivery can take up a bigger share of that over time.
Well, and it's helping the restaurant industry overall because the industry is trying to reduce labor issues, footprint size for real estate, all those controllables that aren't so controllable today, that if you could handle a 40, 50, or 60% delivery system within your operation, changes the DNA of how your restaurant even operates. So
absolutely.
It's a complete shift in where the market's going. So good stuff there. Last topic, grocery. How's that going to work?
So we'll see. So here's what we're observing.
All right.
We're observing that over time, there's more and more of a convergence of consumers that are ordering prepared food from restaurants, but also ordering ready-made, non-prepared food from grocery stores. And then there's everything in between. You've got grocery stores that are selling prepared food in their brick and mortar locations, but we're also seeing grocery stores, and some of them are on the Uber Eats platform today, do food delivery of their prepared foods through Uber Eats.
Interesting.
And so you think about that convergence and think about, well, how can we contribute to where the industry seems to be headed? And so that's something that Uber is thinking about and investing in. So
that'll be interesting to
we're
follow.
building a team in Toronto. We're early, and so not much to share about our business plans yet, but it's something
I'll definitely
that we're thinking
keep an
about.
eye on it, for sure. Hey, Bowie, it was great talking to you today. Thanks so much for stopping in. We appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. For you guys, of course, if you're checking out for more episodes, stay tuned right here from the Winter Fancy Food Show. We'll be back for more on days 2 and 3. You don't want to miss this, so catch us right here.